it's our last sessions, but some interesting things still coming up. Brian Jacobs, 6YZ, he's going to talk to us about VHF and reverse beacon network. And what happened is, I'm part of the AMSAT SA community in the United States, and they also operate in the UK, and we're trying to do something in this country on a similar basis. And I just saw some articles about, they talked about the reverse beacon network, and when you look at HF propagation and want to do some research in that, if you could use that for that, it would be quite useful. And then the idea came up, well, if that's the case, why can't we do it on VHF? Because what happens is, if you set up a lot of beacons, you either have to have some way of sitting down and listening to all the beacons and making a note or recording it or whatever. But what you really want, when a beacon signal is heard and the beacon sits in the Cape and you in here in Joburg, and there's maybe some sporadic E condition occurring on 2 meters, how would you know? So what you need is you need some stations around the country that monitor this, and then automatically send you an SMS or send you a telegram or whatever you want system you want to use, because then you know there is an opening that just about happened because that beacon was monitored over a long distance. So if you then have the opportunity, you can maybe then make a QSO and you know, really have a lot of fun like it. So that came about with the challenge. Twisted Brian's arm, both arms I think. And he is there with us, so he's going to tell us how far he's come with all the work he's been doing in that field. Brian.
Thank you. So first of all, let's just talk about what is a beacon. So a beacon is a transmitter that's sending out a periodic signal for the purpose of propagation research, and so that we know when the bands are open. It normally sends out a CW signal, or it sends out an MGM, a machine-generated signal. And there's various standards involved in what it should send out and so forth. And not all the beacons comply to the recommended standards by the IARU. As we said, the beacon is an indicator that you have a path opening in a certain direction, and then it allows us to play with all our toys. So in the beginning of the year, we had a VHF workshop, and I gave a presentation there on beacons. And after that, there were certain things that happened. We needed to appoint a VHF manager / beacon coordinator, and we put a working group together. So we've got a working group that meets once a month, and the beacons are managed by one of the people in that working group. We now have a definitive list of VHF beacons that are operational in the country, which previously we didn't have. We haven't done anything yet of converting the beacons that are currently available to the IARU standards. And we've started working on a beacon monitoring system. Now at that point in time, we didn't really know what we wanted to do, and we said back burner until we actually have the beacon sorted out. So then, my friend 06AKV sent me a message, and he said, he has an idea. And of course, that set me thinking as well. And I started going and just doing a little bit of research. And one of the guys in the US has already partly addressed the question. And as late as April, he did a presentation on exactly the same thing, where he was asked the same question, and this is partly the answer that he came up with. Everything that we need to do to monitor the beacons is already there. We don't have to reinvent anything. The reverse beacon network takes its information and it propagates it again to all the various other maps like DS maps and so forth. It gets its information from the reverse beacon network. So it's basically a website that collects information from all various stations, and the various stations are stations like we've got, that are just permanently monitoring the bands, and when it picks up a signal, it propagates it to the reverse beacon network, and they make use of software called CW Skimmer, and there is other software as well other than CW Skimmer to make this possible. Okay, so why a reverse beacon network? The beacons are actively transmitting continuously, once every 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, however they're set up. The problem is we're not always monitoring it. How many opportunities do we miss? We don't know, because we've got no information. One of the nice things about the reverse beacon network, it's collecting the information. We can see in near real time that the, openings are happening. We can also do a quick CQ on whatever band we're working on, and if there's a monitoring station, it will be able to pick it up, and we can see that we're actually getting out and what's happening with our signals. The nice thing, it's got a database, so we can go look up historical information. We can compare our signals to other stations, and it's got all sorts of comparison tools already built in to the reverse beacon network system. Bands that it can monitor all the way from 137 kilohertz all the way up to 13 centimeter band. So all that facility is already there, no reinvention. All those modes can be monitored as well. CW Skimmer just does the CW part, but there's other software like RK Skimmer that can do the other digital modes, and then of course FT8 is the weak signal software, which can also provide its information to the reverse beacon network. Fantastic coverage in Europe, North America. If you go and look on the reverse beacon network, lots of activity. So there's lots of monitoring stations around. It's all dependent on volunteer stations, which you set up and let it run all by itself. As we said, there's a hell of a lot of HS stations. The times I've been checking the reverse beacon network, there's one, maybe two VHS stations across the world that are doing any reporting. Why very few VHS stations? We've got no idea. One of the suppositions is that the guys just don't know that the system can do VHF as well. Okay, so how does it work? We use CW Skimmer, which is well-known software that can decode CW signals, written by Alex, Victor Echo 3 November Echo Alpha. Yes, it costs $75 for the registration fee, which is about just over 1,000 Rand, which is pretty steep. It runs on Windows. Then you get with it a skimmer server, and the skimmer server can support multiple feeds that it can read. So you can maybe have SDR dongles monitoring different bands and feeds all that information to the skimmer server, and it will then decode all of that and pass it on to the reverse beacon network. The reverse beacon network has actually written also what they call aggregator software, where you can take all this information and transfer it to the central server. And then the central server will then distribute that information to all the different spotting websites that are out there. John, November uniform, November 8 uniform Romeo, his solution that he proposed in his presentation was using a normal SDR dongle. Very cheap, covers a high frequency range. So you can use multiple dongles if you need to cover a full band. They proposed using a SDR Raspberry Pi, and using RTL HP SDR software, which is specially developed to simulate the high power SDR receivers which you can get hold of, but are very pricey. And what this system can do, it supposedly can handle up to 7 RTL dongles connected onto it. It then takes all that information, aggregates it, and then sends it to the skimmer via an Ethernet port. So at the end of the day, it makes it look like it's a multi-band high-power SDR receiver. So that's what the hardware would look like. The CW skimmer, some information on that, runs on Windows. So you would need a Raspberry Pi and a SDR dongle, which is your receiver side of it, and then it feeds the data to a Windows machine, which then does all the processing and everything else. Antennas, they suggest to use omnidirectional antennas, because of course what you want to do is not monitor a particular beacon in a certain area. You want to be able to monitor everything, because you can have beacons like typically here in South Africa, we've got a beacon, or there's a 2-meter beacon, Polokwane, there's another one in Tolton, there's another one in Bloemfontein that are currently active. There will hopefully in the not too distant future be one in Bethlehem, and there hopefully will be one in the central Karoo. As I said, not in the too distant future. Omnidirectional, horizontally polarized antennas are very scarce, and what they suggest is a halo antenna there. And then you can put feed preamps and so forth as well to try and improve your signal. Yeah, so I started putting together a proof of concept system. Raspberry Pi, no problems. The Linux, no problems. The RTL HP SDR software. There's an image available on the internet. You can just download, put it onto an SD card, and you're up and running. Skimmer, not a problem. Demo version of the software, great. In the meantime, since I last gave this presentation, got the skimmer running, and I can actually give you a demo of what it actually does. And then the reporting tools, the skimmer will automatically through the aggregator send the data to the reverse beacon network. But then the question is, how do us guys know that there's an opening? We can't sit monitoring a website somewhere else. So the idea that I came up with is, what about using a Telegram bot? So that when it picks up that there's an opening and it's decoded the CW, and we know which beacon it is, it can then send out a Telegram message to everybody that subscribes, and you know immediately there's an opening being received at wherever this particular station is. So the idea is at this stage for the system to be situated at the Nark in Joburg, and to start off with, ideally we would want it to be all over the country, different systems that can be monitoring. So then I hit a oops with the proof of concept system. I found that it could not go above 6 meters. And I started digging around, and then I found a reference that the Hermes receiver, which the HP SDR software emulates, has only got a bandwidth of 10 kilos to 55 meg. Oops. So I don't know if the guys in the US has tested it above 6 meters. But it's not a UHF plus solution. So do I have to start all over again? Possibly. No, there are other solutions, and in between I've already investigated 2 of them, and the third one is the one that I actually managed to get working. So the short-term solution that actually works is the Windows laptop running CW schema, running HD SDR, and that seems to work pretty well. I've already tested it on recorded wave files, and it's decoding the CW. Everything is, the whole system is working through. I just haven't switched on allowing it to propagate into the internet because I don't want to feed garbage onto the RBN system. A longer term solution is to develop something that runs on a Raspberry Pi, and we've already got some ideas that Anton has come up with, where we can maybe use his artificial intelligence and use that to decode the signals on a Raspberry Pi, because it's a much smaller, simpler solution than having to find Windows equipment that can run on. The solution I tried before getting to the Windows one is I loaded FLDG and I loaded GQRX on a Raspberry Pi, and once I got everything up and running, the Raspberry Pi just couldn't hack it. You wait for 5 minutes before you can do something on the Raspberry Pi. So something there was wrong, and it was just chomping up processing power, and it basically didn't even get any further. So this solution is working. It's operational. So I'll give you a quick demo on, so that you can just see the CW schema, what it does, identifying the CQ calls that are being made. So what the CW schema does, it's hardwired already to look for any CW that's got CQ in it or that's got test in it. Those are the things that it triggers on, and if it decodes successfully, then you'll see it appear on the screen, and obviously then once it's verified that it's a good signal, it will then get transmitted out onto the reverse beacon network. So let's have a look at it working here. So this is CW schema that we've got here. Now I've in between my 30-day license had run out on the, so I've had to purchase the software, but now I've got it for keeps. And the HD SDR, and this is actually a CW signal that's been recorded on HF. But regardless of what frequencies it was recorded for, it's sending the data from the HD SDR via the IQ signal, which then goes to CW schema. So CW schema is not concerned about what frequency it comes from. It's taking the CW and it's decoding it. Once we get it running on the right frequency, the CW schema will automatically show you the right frequency as well over there. And again, if we change frequency on the CW schema, it will then let the SDR follow it. So there's full control between the two as well. So let's just have a look at it decoding CW. So what you're seeing here, that's a verified signal. There's another verified CQ that is running. The useful thing about this as well is not only will it monitor a beacon, for instance. If you've got a guy on 2 meters or whatever band, VHF plus band, what the guys normally do is they tap the key to make sure they can get comms. And as soon as they start calling CQ, the system will pick it up. And then we know that there's traffic happening. So that's how far we've got with the reverse beacon network so far. I'm hoping that by the time we go to Cape Town, that Leon and myself have managed to put our heads together. We've got a Telegram bot that's making a lot of noise on the phone, telling us that it's receiving CW signals like crazy. And then we need to deploy it and see what it does in real life. Unfortunately, where I sit in Pretoria North, I'm deaf to all beacons. I sat yesterday the whole day and was monitoring for the different beacons, and didn't hear one the whole day. So we need a better location. So once it's running, we'll install it at Marchj and see what happens. Any questions?
Well, I think you've stunned everybody. What is the time of the day? Any questions? What do you think about it?
Sounds great.
Any-
What frequency did you use yesterday, bro?
I was sitting on 2 meters and I was monitoring. Well, there's no ways I can hear the Luft and beacon, they're just simply too far. But I'm sitting behind the Marchj. So my best chance of a beacon is to get the Polokwane beacon, but nothing heard. It's absolutely dead quiet. At the time, it looked like on the waterfall I was picking something up. When I switched over onto the 2 meter rig to listen, no, it's not. It's just noise that it was collecting. So it's a matter of I've got to be up probably early in the morning when the long distance 4-6 group are on the go, and then when I hear that they're saying they're receiving Willem's beacon, I must go switch on and see if I can decode.
See, there's a figure there, signal to noise ratio. Can you actually pick the signal which you want to figure out?
What CW schema does, everything that it finds in a wideband, it will decode. You can see here on the HBSDR, it's actually set for that frequency, but it's decoding everything that it's finding in the band. Developed. You see this guy over here, you click on him and it'll tune your radio to what he is, and then you can work him. And the guys use it very successfully for HFCW competitions. That's where it's probably, from what I can understand, where it's used the most, is the guys that are doing CW competitions. But like everything that we play with, it's got another application somewhere along the line. Sorry, so the signal to noise ratio, it reports the frequency, the station, and the signal to noise ratio that is being received on.
Any other questions?
So does it mean that you guys running beacons at the moment will have to change the format of the message to have CQ in it?
All the beacons do have CQ now. Standard beacon must say CQ and it gives its call sign. And then there's other things that the beacon can do. But one of the biggest changes is that the beacon's frequencies are all over the place. And according to IRU standard, the beacons all need to be collected down in one segment of the band, and they should be running on a certain sequence. So that makes it easier. What they're also trying to do is get the beacons to run very close to each other in frequency, but at different time slots. So you can virtually sit it on one frequency and you can pick up beacon 1, beacon 2, beacon 3, beacon 4 over a 5-minute period, for instance.
Last question.
Do you have any recommendations for people wanting to build like wideband skimmers? Like if they wanted to build a skimmer that was doing, say, like all of HF and VHF, UHF, like you'd have a hell of a lot of antennas. Would you recommend using like an active loop antenna, and then trying to then split that up into a whole bunch of SDRs, or like actually have a bunch of separate antennas?
You're going to have to use different SDRs. And if you're going to be splitting the antenna signal, you're going to be dropping your signal by half every time. So probably best to have separate antennas. And loop antennas would be the best, because they're small, active antennas. And then into different SDR dongles and try and aggregate all of that. So the most dongles that they can handle is actually 7 at a time. But having said that, I've read they reckon you can have multiple instances of the skimmer running on the same machine. So it starts to give you lots of possibilities.
One of the things we were looking at too is to use the AMSAT SA antenna and put it on the tower to point to the various beacons. All right, we're only looking at maybe a 560 dB gain. But then on the other hand, if you want to monitor for conditions, it's very different than when you want to make a long distance contact. So yeah, but we need to get this working fully. Any other questions for Brian? All right, thank you very much. Yeah.
On the thing with the antenna of multiple antennas, what you can do is you can run a splitter. You can either run a Wilkinson splitter. Wilkinson splitters is frequency dependent. You can run straight filters. What do we call it? Duplex or diplexer filters. I mean, those things you get on there. And if you have any losses, there is a crap load of very low noise preamps that you can put in line of the SDR. HP made some really nice stuff. I know what QR, it's got a funny name now.
Keysight Technologies.
Yeah, something like that. And so there's a lot of possibilities. But you can run a single antenna, no problem.
Okay, right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.